They're the largest African-American Catholic fraternal organization in the United States. And for over 100 years, their acts of charity and service have touched countless lives. We'll learn more about them tonight, so please stay with us. Thank you very much and welcome. I'm Father Mitch, and welcome to EWTN Live, where we bring you guests from all over the world. Before we get to our guests tonight, I want to mention that today is the 35th anniversary of the coronation of Pope St. John Paul the Great. And, you know, I certainly can remember I was in studies at the time, getting ready for graduate school, and the day I found out that a Polish pope had been elected, there might have been one or two stairs I hit on the way down the three flights. But when I'm passing chocolates on the streets of Chicago, I was so excited. And, you know, now already, you know, he's been canonized as a saint, and we still study his wisdom, the vision that he gave for the church, and the way forward is, John, as Mr. Weigel had put in his book, Pope John Paul is somebody who drove a car with no rear view mirror. He's always looking forward, and we need to have a lot more of that. Well, tonight we have a couple of guests, and one is an Alabama native, and 4 years ago at the age of 33, he became the youngest person ever chosen to lead the Knights of Peter Claver. He's a Benedictine oblate who previously served in the U.S. Army Chaplains Corps, and since 2010, he's been leading the largest historically black Catholic fraternal order in the United States. So please welcome Supreme Knight and CEO of the Knights of Peter Claver, Mr. F. DeKarlos Blackmon, as well as our own Father Joseph Wolfe. DeKarlos, Father Joseph. Now, since you're from Iowa, Father Joseph, you must be the Alabama native. Where are you
correct.
from in Alabama?
Originally from Mobile, Alabama.
Mobile,
born
wonderful
and raised,
town.
yes.
Wonderful town. Now, home of the first Mardi Gras in the country.
That's right.
Yeah, New Orleans got bigger, but that's the first.
That's right.
Now, a couple things. You know, the reason we invited you, Father Joseph, is because DeKarlos is going to be a guest on a new series, and you are the host. What is that series?
It's called The Church Universal. And the idea behind this series, and actually we've had 14 different groups, they're lay movements predominantly, but it's to show the charitable works of the church, that often the news headlines are filled with the mistakes of ministers and so on. So this is to show the much bigger picture, bigger story of the charitable works of the church. And so we actually recorded our program earlier today about the Knights of Peter Claver and about their charitable works.
Yeah. Now, to understand the Knights of Peter Claver, first of all, who was St. Peter Claver?
St. Peter Claver was a Spanish Jesuit, as one of your confreres,
Yes.
who took care of African slaves in Cartagena in South America.
Yes, but you know, they would come off the slave ships and they'd just be miserable. And what a horrible, horrible thing that had happened to them. And he was there to welcome them with care. You know, food, medicine, clothes. They're oftentimes freezing cold. And so that was his ministry for how many years, do you think?
I don't remember exactly how many years, but it was just tremendous to have someone who believed that everyone should be afforded dignity and respect. And of course, this is why this is the patron of our order.
You know, one of the things a lot of folks are unaware of, but within 6 months of the beginning of the slave trade, Pope Eugene put it under automatic excommunication. In January 1437, slave trade began in 1436 in that summer. He put it, as soon as he heard about it, it took a while, but you know, when he heard about it, he said, these are human beings, you can't slave them. And those, you know, excommunications were repeated constantly all the way through the 19th century when the slave trade finally stopped. So this is, you know, something that the church was always against, but as we still see, a lot of people do things the church condemns, even though that we say it's wrong. And this was one of the catastrophes for the people that were enslaved. Now, why were Knights of Peter Claver started? Why did that get started?
Well, just at the turn of the century, 1909, the Knights of Peter Claver were founded as an organization for men of color, because in the South, men of color could not join local councils of the Knights of Columbus.
Right. There were, this is the time after Plessy versus Ferguson decision that Jim Crow laws just became the law of the land.
That's right.
They had to have separate but equal, so they couldn't mix.
That's right.
And so this, you know, the Knights, where did they get started? Who started them and where?
They were started in Mobile, Alabama. Mobile,
just like you.
That's right. I was started in Mobile, Alabama as well, but started in Mobile, Alabama by 4 Jesuit priests and 3 Catholic laymen. There, with the permission, the approbation of the Bishop of Mobile at the time, Bishop Allen.
Okay. Were the Jesuits teaching at Spring Hill College?
The Jesuits were. Did I say Jesuits or Josephites?
Josephites as
Oh,
well.
Josephites.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
All right, so
Yeah. Let me say, Josephite fathers and brothers, please forgive me.
well, it's an easy mistake. We're SJ, they're SSJ, so it's close.
I think I'm under your Jesuit trance. I think that's what it is.
Get free of it. Get free of it. Run. So Josephites, who are?
The Society of Saint Joseph of the Society of Saint Joseph of the Sacred Heart, Josephite fathers from the old Mill Hill fathers, whose apostolate is to take care of African American Catholics.
In the same period,
yes,
you know, of Jim Crow laws, they said we're focusing on the African American community.
Absolutely.
They and the Divine Word Fathers both did that. Divine Word Fathers ran a seminary
in Bay St. Louis.
Bay St. Louis for African American seminarians, and Josephites served African American parishes.
That's right. And I will say the Josephite fathers and the SVDs, the Divine Word Fathers, have been tremendous supporters of the Knights of Peter Claver, particularly in regard to pastoral care. Bishop Dominic Harmon, a past national chaplain, is a Divine Word bishop, and he was our homilist at our convention here recently.
Okay, good. Now, there's a certain importance for these fraternal societies, like the Knights of Columbus and the Knights of Peter Claver and others. What is the advantage for men, whether African American or any other group? What is the advantage of having men get together in a Catholic fraternal organization?
Well, the societies are fraternal benefit societies, so it's helping each other as far as financial support, what have you, in time of need. But in addition to that, getting together, there's strength in numbers to take care of the needs of the church, to take care of the sick, the poor, those who are underprivileged. That's some of the gifts of the order coming together.
You know, Father Mitch, one of the things that came up in our show today was that DeKarlos is also the Deputy General of the International Association of Knights, which I didn't know existed, that there are a variety of different Knights groups all over the world that do these charitable works. And maybe you could mention a couple of the groups that...
Yeah, we have the Knights of Columbanus in Ireland, the Knights of Dagama in South Africa, the Knights of the Southern Cross in Australia, the Knights of Malumba in Nigeria, the Knights of Marshall in Ghana. So there are a number of fraternal benefit societies around the world.
That's interesting. Would Knights of Malta be in that, or are they, because they're a Crusader organization?
They're separate from the fraternal benefit societies.
Okay. So these, you know, I know one of the things, for instance, that the Knights of Columbus do is make insurance policies available. Do the Knights of Peter Claver do the same?
They do.
So this is another one of the benefits
of membership
that a person can get into for the benefit of his family if something should happen to the life insurance.
That's right.
Yeah, life insurance policy. That's again something looking down the road for care of the family.
That's right.
Now, with the Knights of Peter Claver, I'm sure you have a variety of different kinds of activities like any of these other organizations. What would be some of the most characteristic that you've seen, or especially that are going on at the present moment?
Well, I think principally right now, promoting scholarship. As you know, one of the diseases within the black community, sickle cell. And so the Knights of Peter Claver has a very, very strong awareness of this, and that's definitely a mission of the order. Right now, I'm working with the executive committee of the National Council Board on providing more for heart stroke type stuff with the Heart Association, because the American Heart Association, because that's also a problem within the African American community. So, you know, if we want to keep families together, we want to try to keep them alive. So I think that's that's very, very important.
It's a very important element of health. You know, I mean, there's just some problems that seem genetically related, like sickle cell anemia. It doesn't occur in people of European background, but it's common enough in, I don't know if all of Africa, but certainly in West Africa.
That's right.
And the folks who came here mostly from West Africa. So this is something that is extremely important research that African Americans, you know, can deal with. Also, besides supporting that kind of research, you have a convention. Tell us a little bit about that convention.
Every year we have an annual convention. When the membership come together, the National Council in convention, the National Council sets the tone of the order. They set the tone of the order, and the National Council Board of Directors throughout the year implements implements on behalf of the National Council the initiatives of the order.
I see. Now, we can hear a little bit of the singing. This is a pretty large group. You know, it's not just a couple hundred people. About how many folks show up at the convention?
It varies, but we get between 800 to maybe 1,300.
So, and I also see that the number of ladies there, obviously, you know, wives and other relatives and friends, but is there a ladies' auxiliary to the Knights of Peter Claver?
Absolutely. The Knights of Peter Claver is a family organization, so there's a large component of the ladies' auxiliary and even the junior division. So we have a separate division for junior knights and for junior daughters.
Okay. So you can get, at what age could they become a junior knight or junior daughter?
They would have to be 7 years old, at least 7 years old, and they would have to have received the sacrament of Holy Eucharist.
Okay. And to do that, also confession.
That's right.
Lord knows I needed it by 7, not earlier. So, this is something then the family gets involved in. Tell us a little bit about what the ladies might do. If you know, and some of this fraternal, charitable kind of stuff. What are the things that the ladies do, the sisters do, involved in this?
Well, the initiatives of the order are the initiatives of the whole order. So the ladies participate in all of the functions in the charitable giving of the order as a whole. So if the ladies have an initiative, the National Council participates in that as well. So that's stressing the family dynamic of the order.
And the children as well, they'll be involved in the same kind of things at their level, of course.
Yeah, they would, or have their own initiatives. I tell you, in regard to sickle cell, I was really impressed with the Junior Supreme Lady from Beaumont, Texas, because she came to me wanting to do something in regards to sickle cell, and it was, I think Pennies for Hope was the name of the program, and she was quite successful with that. And after she had talked to me about that, the Junior Supreme Knight wanted an initiative about cancer, you know, so the cancer awareness. And so they both created funds for that. And it was exclusively coming from the juniors. So it was quite impressive at their last convention in Indianapolis to see young people come out on their own initiative to help the community.
Now, in terms of some of the research and stuff, are there particular research programs, say for sickle cell anemia, that are going on today? Are there some universities that are, putting special efforts into that kind of research?
You know, I'm not certain of that because I don't deal with that directly.
Okay.
But I'm pretty certain that our executive director would be able to answer that.
Okay. Yeah. So that they would be able to, I guess I always like when somebody is raising money to see here's where it's going.
Well, some of the aid is direct aid that goes to different programs around the country. So those applications are made from individual councils or courts around the country, and they have to be verified by medical personnel.
One other thing that's, I've been impressed. I've been a member of the Knights of Columbus for a few years. And in addition to some of these kind of charitable works that they do in service projects, they also encourage the life of the faith as well as the family. Would there be some ways in which specifically the development of faith is taking place within the Knights of Peter Claver? Is there some direction that they take for being able to have faith development for the families?
Well, we're in the process of working on that right now, particularly in regard to the degradation of the family, and particularly the black family. That is a focus within the African American Catholic community. So I'm working on that with some of our past Supreme Knights and past Supreme Ladies moving forward. It's very, very important to provide that background, the fundamental stuff about the faith, keeping that at the forefront of people's minds. When I became the Supreme Knight of the Knights of Peter Claver, I had in the back of my mind that idea that with society becoming increasingly secular, we have to set that fire of reorienting society back to God. So we're in that process of ensuring that those things are much more apparent than they have been in past years.
I was listening to Professor Walter Williams. He's an economics professor, I believe, at George Washington University. And he was saying that in the 1910 census, so a year after the Knights of Peter Claver were founded, that the African American community had a lower rate of unwed motherhood, of single or unwed motherhood, than did the Caucasian community in the United States of that time. Slightly less rate, but still less. And he was the one who also pointed out that absolutely key to that was the church. The black church across the board, didn't matter what denomination, the strength of the church community helped build up the family and vice versa. It was a symbiotic relationship. Is this also part of what you're saying in terms of the goal for rebuilding family is?
Absolutely, we have to get back to that. With with society becoming increasingly secular, there are all kinds of vices. Our young people are exposed to things that they have not been exposed to in the past.
Sure.
And so when you have children having children young and out of wedlock, it becomes a vicious cycle, and that's what we have to turn around.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, we have a lot of that even within the Catholic community, regardless of what ethnicity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, that's it goes across the board because the influences are the same. A doctor friend of mine delivered a baby. She's a neonatologist. Delivered a baby to a 12-year-old girl. Grandma was 25 years old.
Wow.
And great grandma was 40. You know, this is it's what you mean by that's 3 generations. You know, of women that have given birth to children when they were children. And you know, this is where the church needs to call us to say, wait, how good a sense is this for everybody involved? How does this help the children and the women and the fathers of those children, any of them, to grow in responsibility, love, or maturity?
I think it's very important to have organizations like the Knights of Columbus, the Knights of Peter Claver, because one of the things that these organizations can bring to the table is actually being those surrogate father figures in those situations. That's very, very important, that refocus on the family.
Yes, yes. You know, because this is overall, this is across the world and throughout world history. When men don't settle down with a woman, they don't become civilized. They stay in groups of men who act barbarically. Women help get a guy to settle down. I didn't say you go out with the boys tonight. I don't care what you put that hatchet back, and you barbarians are going to stay home and clean the house. It's, you know, women have that civilizing influence in drawing men away from primarily being related to other guys. And then the other side of that, I learned this when I taught high school. The more boys involved in making a decision, the worse that decision usually is.
I would have to agree with that, having taught high school. So.
One boy by himself might be kind of dumb, but a bunch of boys together. And women sort of help, you know, bring balance to a man, you know, to move away from.
Well, you know, I would really agree with that. One of the things that I taught in the high school when I was teaching in the college prep school was that all relationships have to be mutually self-giving. They have to be mutually self-giving. And we have to ensure that the Lord is a part of that. You know, that's a key. We have to teach young people that at an early age, but I think we have to emulate that, you know? We have to see it, we have to emulate it, and others have to see it so that they emulate what they see.
Yes, exactly.
I like something too that you said today, that we all really have a responsibility for the younger generation.
Yes.
It's not like saying, okay, they're not our problem, they're not connected to us maybe, but all of us have a role to mentor others. Maybe if they have a missing father figure in their family, or there's something else lacking, that each of us has a responsibility to help those younger generations, especially if there's something lacking in their upbringing, to support them and encourage them, to be there for them.
Exactly.
And I don't think that I would be as successful as I am today had it not been for the parish priest that was assigned to my parish when I was 3 years old. You know, because I did not have that stable father figure in the home. Now, clearly things could have been much worse for me, but by the grace of God, you know, and having someone, you know, that's why organizations like the Knights of Peter Claver are very, very important and key to Holy Mother Church.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, this is, you know, a mission for, you know, two, you know, folks who are in need, whether I'm related to them or not. I mean, you're talking about a family orientation, but it's easy to extend that out to include those whose family is in a very crisis situation.
And one of the things we have to keep before us is that, you know, you could have a couple, a father and a mother, a married couple at home, but if the family is not together, you know, if the kids are coming home after school and dad is doing his thing, mom's doing her thing, you know, what is that? If the family is allowed to eat in separate rooms, you know, what is that?
Right.
You know, and I think that's a serious problem. I think some of us have the misguided notion that, okay, there's a mother and a father in the home, so everything should be good. I think we have to also pay attention to those families. We have to listen to those kids who are coming to the parish school of religion, who are in our Catholic schools. We need to do everything we can to form young people in their dimensions as people of God.
And I think to see that vision, you know, God has given me certain abilities to be this kind of man that can be at service, just like, you know, of course, the same for women. You know, that we each have these gifts that we bring to the table, and for the service of those who don't have those gifts. You know, how we can present that, say, look, you know, here's some good stuff to do, and have some fun doing it. This is a very important role for this kind of an organization, or the Knights or any of the other Knights organizations.
You know, I think another thing that has come out in this Church Universal series is a number of groups like Cursillo, Focolare, where they see the importance of having that community support, so that you're not just an isolated family trying to make it on your own, but that there are other families that can support you, that can help you through troubled times, and that you likewise can help others in their difficulties. And I think one of the things I've read articles recently about the lack of friendship among men themselves. Maybe they're watching a football game by themselves, but they don't really have a true friendship and camaraderie. And that's where I think groups like the Knights of Peter Claver and other groups, that's something that can provide that friendship, that community support.
Very much so. Very much so. Because, again, when you let the culture set the tone, kids will tend to go to the lowest common denominator. The kid who said, "Oh, I tried drugs. It was cool and nothing bad happened to me. I smoked a few cigarettes. Nothing. I didn't get cancer." You know, I mean, that's as much thinking process as some kids do. Not realizing that you don't get cancer the first cigarette. You might get pregnant the first time you mess around, but you don't get cancer the first time you do a cigarette. And they don't know the difference between those two. And this is something where we say, let's try to get y'all some sense here with a community that supports you in not figuring out the dumbest thing you can possibly do together. As we say down here, famous last words of a good old boy. Hey, y'all, watch this. You know, it's, you know, we don't want to go that route. I said, hey, y'all, let's help this.
That's right.
It's a different attitude.
Absolutely.
You know, that liturgy that they had for the convention mass of Thanksgiving was beautiful if you had an opportunity to see it. And this is something that's been very dear to the heart of DeKarlos. Of course, he's an oblate of St. Benedict. So he has a great love for the liturgy. And I learned something about him. He was part of writing the music for the responsorial psalm, which really moved me when I first heard it. So I think that's, like we talked about earlier, the element of faith, bringing faith into the family. And the beauty of the liturgy, what the liturgy communicates to us, is something that enriches us, that lifts us higher than just our surroundings too, so that we're not just living on this earthly plane, but we have this divine help too.
That's right.
And it's, you know, as a Jesuit, we always tip our hats to the Benedictines when it comes to liturgy. And again, because the liturgy is not about my self-expression personally. It's about adoring God and being lifted up to God. That's the key there. One of the things we have to lift up is that this is time for our break.
Okay.
We're going to take a little break right now and come back in 2 minutes. We want to get your questions about the Knights of Peter Claver and the service that they do, as well as questions from our studio audience. So please stay with us. Thank you, and welcome back. First of all, I want to invite all of you to come and be part of our studio audience. We have a lot of nice folks from all different parts of the country here, all the way up to upstate New York and all the way down to Louisiana, and southern Louisiana at that, and folks all in between. So we'd love to have you come and join us too. If you can do so, please contact our pilgrimage department, which is 205-271-2966. Or you can go to the website, EWTN.com. They will give you all kinds of information about where you can stay, good places to eat. Matter of fact, my sister-in-law's parents are here, and we made sure we got down there to that Golden Rule Barbecue. Now, this is a religiously themed town. See, our barbecue has Golden Rule behind it, and we got a hamburger heaven. So we'd love to have you come here and join us, and they'll give you all that information. Also, to give you some information about the Knights of Peter Claver, you can go to their website, which is KOFPC.org. Okay? And their phone number is 504-821-4225. Okay? So that's a great way to get a hold of them. Now, something else I want to mention before we go to questions. All of us should very much keep in mind the terror attack that took place today in Ontario, Canada. the attack inside the Parliament building, the soldier who was murdered by a terrorist at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. He was an unarmed man just standing watch, and he was murdered. And any of the other terror that goes on there. And pray still for the people in Syria and Iraq and elsewhere, where terrorists use fear to try and keep people down. We pray that God would turn the hearts of these terrorists, turn them to an authentic love and dignity. And we pray for the repose of the soul of that soldier, for the comfort of his family. This is a very difficult situation, and all of us have to be alert to that need to constantly pray. Most of us can't do anything specific to put a stop to it, but we can do that and intercede God for a change of our hearts and a change of the hearts of those who would be able to do such deeds. All right, we're going to take a question now. We'll start off with this gentleman here. Sir, where are you from?
Yes, good evening. My name is Sean O'Neill. I'm a district deputy, Knights of Columbus from the state of New Jersey.
Yeah.
And I would like to thank you for having Supreme Knight on the show. Knights of Columbus has made it a priority to save babies, and we have been providing ultrasound machines with the assistance of the Supreme Council, particularly in New Jersey. I was wondering if the Knights of St. Peter Claver do that, or would they also like to join the Knights in doing that?
So you have, one of their tasks is working to let women see their baby before they abort it. Is there any movement along that line?
There hasn't been as of yet, but I welcome that collaboration to be able to do that together. I think that would be a wonderful thing to do. Any ways that the orders can work together for the benefit of the community, we have to jump at those opportunities.
You know, one of the other things too is that from the beginning of Planned Parenthood, there was a plan by Margaret Sanger, the founders of Planned Parenthood, to reduce the black population. One of her quotes is that blacks are a weed that must be eliminated. And she tried to use ministers to bring in birth control beginning in the early 40s. And 60% of Planned Parenthood's clinics
or in our communities.
Exactly, African American communities. That even though African Americans are 12% of the population, it seems to be a steady connection in their history. So this does sound like a pointed kind of service of the Knights of Peter Claver to the African American community.
Absolutely. You know, I've spoke out in 2011, I think it was 2011 or 2012 about this. I remember being in the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, and I was speaking with a black woman who was telling me how wonderful Planned Parenthood was. And I was very patient, to say the least, as she was speaking. But then I began to question, and the things that you just mentioned about Margaret Sanger, I talked to her about that, and she said she didn't know that.
Right.
And I think it's very sad that people are not aware. And so I think that's something that within the African American community, they need to be aware, very much aware. And people will point out, oh, well, you know, there are good things that happen as well, but I don't think that we can cooperate with evil in any way.
And in some parts of our large cities, like I think New York City, 85% of African American children conceived get aborted.
That's right.
And 85%, that would be genocide. And it's very racially oriented. And in my mind, unspeakably evil.
In Huntsville, Alabama, for instance, the abortion clinic has moved to African American area of town. So,
Same deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this would be something to really rally and support from every Catholic to say this is wrong.
Absolutely.
You know, the protection of African American children is essential for our country.
Absolutely.
We have another question. Sir, where are you from?
I'm Paul Morbido from Erie, Pennsylvania.
Good to have you here. And your question?
How is the Knights of Columbus different from the Knights of Claiborne?
All right, so how are the Knights of Columbus different from the Knights of Peter Claver?
Well, let me start by saying there are a lot of similarities of the two orders, but one of the things I can say about the Knights of Peter Claver, the greatest part of the focus is clearly within the African American community. That would be the greatest difference.
Plus, Knights of Peter Claver have a canonized saint in their name.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And the Knights of Columbus don't.
That's right.
Though they're trying to get their founder, Catholic. Well, let's now go to a phone call. Hello, Donovan.
Hello, thank you for taking my call.
Hi, where are you from?
I'm from Austin, Texas.
Okay, great. And your question?
Questions for the gentleman, and he had mentioned that that the order is a family order. I know it's a fraternal order, but it is an order focused on the family. I'm a knight with the Knights of Columbus here, and one of the things that I've expressed interest in doing with our own council is including more family-type activities. We have, of course, our Ladies Auxiliary, and he had mentioned that you guys have, children as part of the order too. I just wanted to really learn more about some of those family activities and really to try and incorporate it into our own council here in Austin, Texas.
Great, very good idea, Donovan.
I think when we talk about the family order, I want to make sure that when we talk about the Knights of Peter Claver as a family order, we refer to that family as the 6 divisions, principally the 4 divisions, the Ladies Division, the Knights Divisions, the Junior Daughters, and the Junior Knights. The goal is to bring the entire family into the order. So you have a young family with kids, you want everyone to be a part of it. But in regard to activities, we want to focus a lot of those activities within the parochial community. We don't want to necessarily do things that are outside the parochial community, because as we talked about earlier in the taping for the shows in the Church Universal, it's very, very important that we keep before us that everything flows in and out of the liturgy, in that community, corporate worship, all of the things should flow out of there, and what we do in everyday community. So all of the activities of the parish community are some of the major activities that we are heavily involved in.
So, for the Knights then, Knights of Columbus, because I know that they have pages for the young men and they have the Ladies Auxiliary. I don't know if they have something for the daughters. I've never heard of that.
I haven't either.
Yeah, and to perhaps, I've certainly seen the Knights and the pages doing things in parishes here in Birmingham. They'll go some of the inner city schools and just get in there and do the repairs that need to be made. That brings skills, things like that. And it'll be the young men and the dads working together, but to do other things in the parish. This would be the kind of orientation.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the first goals and objectives of the Knights of Peter Claver is to support the local pastor in his role as the proper pastor of the parochial community, to support the bishop, the chief shepherd of the diocese. Those things have to happen. We can go outside and do all kinds of other things, but I'm one of those guys that believe that charity begins at home.
And that would be the parish.
That's
as
right.
A place where the Knights of Peter Claver, the ladies, young knights and young ladies, are visibly involved in serving the parish.
Absolutely. That's first and foremost. And then what we do branches out to other things, to the civic community.
Sure. And so that would be something, Donovan, that maybe you can look for ways to get the Knights and Ladies Auxiliary with the pages and daughters to do something in your parish together. And that just takes some cleverness.
But I do want to add, though, for Donovan, I would encourage Donovan to go to Holy Cross Catholic Church there in Austin and talk to the Grand Knight, Derek Phillips, because he's a very successful Grand Knight. His council, the whole family there at Holy Cross, they're very often the family of the year or the council of the year within the Knights of Peter Claver around the country. So he is in a very good place to find out how to maximize.
Yeah.
So I would encourage him to go to Holy Cross.
Good kind of sharing of ideas locally, like you say, and helping each other out.
Absolutely.
I have another question from our studio audience. Ma'am, where are you from?
Hi, my name is Sylvia and I'm from Kenmore, New York. And my question is, how young are the girls, the females, and at what level do they move to another part of it, like the young to teenagers to adolescents? And does it have anything to do with where they're put as far as, like, if they're, like you said, young and pregnant or young mothers? Do they fit in with the other females of their age level?
Interesting question.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I haven't had to deal with anything like that, but to back it up to the initial part of the question, they come in, they're able to join at the age of 7, and they would move out of the junior division to the ladies division at 18. So they can stay in the juniors division at 18 because many of them wait to that last convention, and there's a crossover from the junior division to the ladies division. And so that happens at the junior national convention. There's an initiation for them going into the ladies division. But by the age of 19, they have to be in the ladies division. But as far as pregnancies and whatever, I haven't had to deal with that. But of course, within the church, I think we have to be very careful to, one, not shun people, alienate people, but at the same time, we have to be careful not to unduly put before other young people a situation that gives the impression that this is acceptable behavior.
Right.
So I think we have to be very careful.
Yeah, it's a balance.
Absolutely.
Between saying, oh, you can't be part. No. You can join the rest of us sinners. We might all have our own sins, but, but we also don't want this to be something that, we say, okay, this is normative. It shouldn't be normative, but the person should be accepted. That's a good. You have a phone call online. Hello, Joseph.
Yes.
Hi. Where are you from?
Lafayette.
Lafayette, Louisiana. Now there's some good eating down there.
Yeah, I was
Yes,
just
it is.
in Lafayette.
Now, what can we do for you today?
I wanted to know from the gentleman, the African-American gentleman, spring night, did he have any suggestions to the community or even to myself or anyone of African-American descent? What could we do? Because there are so many young African-American males who are incarcerated. So many of them are dying and killing each other. And there are so many young African-American girls who are pregnant without fathers. So what do we do? Where do you start as a community? I mean, outside of Knights Peter Claver, or maybe with the help of Knights Peter Claver.
Joseph, thank you for that question. That's well, we were talking about that a little bit before. What can we do? We know the problem. What do we do?
Well, I think from the outset, we have to be in the mindset of meeting people where they are at a very early age. I was always impressed when I was director of music in a Methodist church how kids on Easter Sunday at the age of 2, as soon as they can learn something, there's a part of Scripture that they're reciting at the Easter Sunday service. But we as Catholics don't really do that. We wait until much later. I mentioned earlier in our taping, I think, about baptisms. You know, we love baptisms at the Sunday, well, some of us love baptisms at the Sunday Mass. Some people would rather know that it was going to happen so that they could go to a different Mass, but that's I'm sure a different show. But, but you know, if you think about the baptisms, we're all excited. We're all excited, and we all make those promises, and we give the impression that we're going to help to raise that child. I think that has to happen at a very, very early age. We have to always be involved in the lives of the people within our communities. And if we see people err, we have to offer a gentle correction. I can tell you in my own life, teaching school, working with young people, when I was in the classroom, there were 3 things that I told my classes every year. 1, that I will love you. You can count on that. I will love you, I will not judge you, and I will meet you where you are. When young people come to know that you mean what you say, when they're having problems, they will come to you.
Right.
And I think those are some of the concrete things that we can do from the outset. People get involved with other things because they have no one to turn to sometimes to tell them the right thing. Who's going to go to someone who's going to judge them or condemn them from the outset?
Right.
You know, so I think it's more fundamental starting at the early age and raising the child. And sometimes it's offering gentle correction to the parents of young people who may err. But we live in such a society where we say, hands off, it's not my problem. And that is where we are failing. Each one of us has an obligation to take care of each other because we do not live in this world alone.
Also, is something I'd like to suggest. A couple years ago, Joseph, I did a program with a couple of ranchers out in Kerrville, Texas. There are other guys from Stonewall and over in Fredericksburg. And these ranchers, these are not professional counselors, raising cattle and doing all that, but they go to a high security prison every week. They give retreats. And you might look into this, called ACTS, ACTS. And they do that in the prison. And I know last year they had about 130 some guys who became Catholic. 2 lifers who decided they would start studying Greek and Latin. Because I'm here for the rest of my life. This is my mission, to teach scripture to the other guys. They're turning lives around. And this would be a good thing to look into. I think you can find ACTS retreats on the line, ACTS, and see how that might be to get some other men in your community, to go into the men's prison, get some ladies do the work in the ladies' prison, and get some of this started. It can be very, very successful. And I had a call on the radio today who's going to go on one of these this weekend.
I think that, and I'm happy that you mentioned that because I think that would cut down on recidivism.
It does.
So, I mean, you know, with what I was saying about the preventative maintenance, I think this is very, very important so that we're not continuing that cycle by sending them back to prison. Exactly. And of course, the reality in the United States is that if you're black and brown, I mean, you're going to have a tougher time anyway. Because there seems to be so many of us, the blacks and the browns, in prisons.
In prisons, also unemployed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, we have 1 minute left. You have a question, sir?
Yes, I'm from the village of Jigo on the island of Guam.
Right.
And you have a number of different programs that it seems like you have very high expectations. How do you define success on most of these programs, and if they are going to be successful?
You have about 45 seconds for that tough question.
I think defining success, first of all, if you're going to start an initiative, there has to be measurable goals.
Exactly.
So I don't think that there's a straight line answer to that. You have to figure out what those measurable goals are.
For each program.
For each individual program.
And to be able to say, okay, this is what we'd like to accomplish. And then you can measure somewhat, okay, did we accomplish it or not? and then adapt to it.
Absolutely.
Well, we have to adapt to a fact. Time has run out. And very much delighted that both of you are here. You're doing this series, Father, for with DeKarlos and all these other folks. Thank you for being here with us. And Father, would you join me in giving a blessing?
Certainly.
May Almighty God bless you and keep you and cause His face to shine upon you and lead you in all of your ways by His peace. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. And you know, we can keep Father Joseph out of trouble and busy doing this series, as well as have DeKarlos here and all the other guests and programs, only because this network is brought to you by you. You make it possible, as you always have. So please keep us in between your gas bill, your electric bill, and your cable bill. And then we'll be able to pay all our bills too. Thank you, and God bless you.